gonna start the stream now.
Yeah, that's cool. And people will know that they're in the right spot, and that it's kind of.
Yeah. Okay. It's weird because like I don't see any. Like I'm just using.
Also, it was at the top. You said 29. It said 29 people waiting. I don't know.
Weird. That's.
Oh, let me ask Paul if you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, it says there's 5 people viewing.
It's up.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's up
It's
now.
up now?
Oh,
Okay.
is it? Okay.
Everything's perfect.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We're going to get started in 2 minutes, okay? So you want to grab a drink and find some seats. 2 minutes and we will get started, okay? Thank you all very much.
I'll also point out the QR codes are active if you want to use.
Just a reminder, there are QR codes on the tables, and if you scan that, you are able to order a drink from the bar, and they will bring it to you.
They all have Wi-Fi passwords on them.
Pardon?
They all have their Wi-Fi passwords on them too.
Oh, perfect. That's right. The Wi-Fi passwords
It's
are
on
on
there for the QR code,
above
yeah.
the QR code. Thanks, everybody.
Kevin,
Yes.
two of our friends, one says, now there is a message that the video has been removed by the uploader.
So that was my test video. So there's only one video on the channel now that's live.
Okay.
So if they click on live, there's only one option.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the earlier one was my test.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
No, I just, you know,
dedication in my next book that is coming out later this year is dedicated to my dad. Okay? I just wanted you to know. I think you would have liked it. Well, I think
Yes, people are already grabbing it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hello everybody. Hey everybody. Thank you all for coming today to Court's celebration of life. We're thankful that you all could make it on this gray, rainy day. Court's favorite kind of day, actually, now that I think about it. So we are going to start right now with a video that we have. Noah, please, here we go.
I've always said that it's really not cool to start a show with talking, but I figure I've broken that rule every other time we played a show, so I might as well. So, welcome to Holy Joseph's, and thanks for coming and listening to our music. Well, hi there, Internet. Well, hi there, Internet. Hi there, Internet. Hi there, Internet. My name's Court, and because I have a healthy appreciation for Batman, I'm breaking down the brand new Robert Pattinson Batsuit from Matt Reeves' The Batman. And here we go. What's up? Milkshake with you here again. I've given you the story about the song in the thread, so I'm just going to play the song for you. It is called The Rock Park, but before I do that, I will introduce my lovely, beautiful guitar here for you. Oh, she's such a beaut, and her name is the Lesbian Seagull, which is named after a song that Engelbert Humperdinck sings in Beavis and Butthead Do America. And the reason is, if you can see, I don't know if you can, there it is. The brand name of the guitar is Seagull. Anyway. So here is the song that I wrote a couple years ago. It's called The Rock Park. It's cheesy and lame and sad, but I'm still kind of proud of it. Anyway, I hope you can hear it. Here we go. time we tried to walk there, got halfway, and older, saw myself get taller. We were all just little kids, and now we're those no longer. It's not a gradual feeling, getting stronger. A tunnel's gone, I guess that means we go. I miss our little rock. I miss our little trio. Back when things weren't so stark. Can we go back to how things were in our rock park? You still know the way back. You still Yep. So. surprises.
say no. Remain close to me. No goodbye, suicide mystery. Right in your brain turns a wheel, connected to your guts, and all your faults are in me, and all your faults in me. What would you say if we lived on TV? Besides all the things they tell you to, and all
I want to start by saying, content warning. This eulogy contains some very dark humor and some adult language. I also want to start by saying that this is very long and drawn out, so if you need to get up and move, if you want to go get food, please, you do not need to stay in one spot for this. We're going to get through this long-ass eulogy together. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Well, this fucking sucks, huh? This is terrible. It took me a really long time to figure out what I wanted to say today. Mostly because I had to take out all the parts that were inappropriate or that Martha wouldn't like. So this is what we're left with. I hope what's left is still decent enough. I'd also be remiss if I didn't start by pointing out that Court was the MC at our wedding. So I feel like, in some dark way, he always intended for this to be my job, just to make sure that I put the work in, really. So I know that this was all part of his grand plan. Because that's just the type of prick that Court was. Yeah, and I love him for it with all of it. I didn't know Court the longest of all of his friends, and I may not have known him the best. But I do know that he might have impacted my life more than anyone else in the room, with the exception of you, Martha, and maybe you, Darcy. Because I have 3 people that I need to file taxes for every single year because of him. So I know that that's how much it impacted me. I first met Court, how many people in high school met him, through our mutual love and adorations for all things music related. We were both in grade 9, and Court was likely sitting on the floor in the music hallway, as it was referred to, at Thornley Secondary School, playing guitar. I remember immediately being in awe of him. He knew all the songs that I was trying to learn how to play, and he was nice enough to let me sit with him, and I picked up a few things. By grade 10, we were already playing guitar together in the hallways at school, most lunches, when we had spares sometimes when we were supposed to be in class also, we were still in the hallway playing guitar. If we left our guitars at home, though, it was a quick fix. We just skipped the afternoon of classes. We would make the 20-minute walk down Bayview, over the overpass, through the underpass, past Thornhill Square, where we pick up a couple Frosty Cokes, and then to Martha's basement, where we could play music as loud as we wanted to, uninterrupted. And Martha never did interrupt. We had the run of the place, and we spent many hours falling in love with the music that we learned how to play together. And Martha never did mind or interrupt. Court's home was the setting for many of my fondest memories from those years. I learned so much from Court. I learned how to play guitar better from him. He tried to teach me how to cook once. That didn't go great, but bless his heart for trying. Court had all sorts of knowledge of topics that I had never heard of, and I don't know that I'd ever would learn about them if it wasn't for him. I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room who can say that same thing. Court had an encyclopedia-like knowledge of popular culture, music, movies, and he exposed me to a lot of the world that I don't know I would have if I would have been exposed to otherwise. Some famous Court lines I can recall. You've never seen The Exorcist 3? What's the matter with you, right? Oh, you listen to Bob Marley? That's cool. Have you ever listened to Peter Tosh before, though? He would say, come sit down and let me explain to you why Weird Al Yankovic is the greatest songwriter of our generation. So I learned a lot from Court. Court was watching Kids in the Hall and Mr. Show when everyone else was still watching Saved by the Bell. Court Jarell was listening to Fela Kuti, rest in peace Richard, when the rest of us were listening to The Strokes. And Court Jarell was listening to Pearl Jam when the rest of us were, okay, the rest of us were also listening to Pearl Jam at that time also, I have to say. But speaking of Pearl Jam, Court's unwavering love of Pearl Jam and everything Pearl Jam related had a huge impact on us growing up. Eddie Vedder's lyrics, also one of the greatest songwriters of our time, as well as Weird Al, were exposing us to lots of topics at a young age that we might have never otherwise learned about. Topics like child abuse, racism, feminism, democracy, standing up against corporate greed, police brutality, women's reproductive rights, and dealing with the tragic loss of a parent. These heavy themes spoke to many of the youth of our generation, but for Court, I think they also demonstrated to him the powerful effect that music can have on the world. Court's home was a destination for many of us for years. If your parents wouldn't approve of you watching whatever weird, psychedelic, or obscure, adult-oriented show you wanted to watch at your house, don't worry, you could go over to Court's house. His parents were the coolest. For any of you that don't know, Martha and Richard immigrated to Canada after telling the US government and the Vietnam War to fuck off. Sorry, kids. And leaving their home in Indiana for stunningly picturesque Thornhill, Ontario. With this fiercely independent family history in his blood, it's no surprise that Court always had an anti-establishment, punk rock perspective on everything. And that attitude was highly attractive to all of us, and we were drawn to him. Court and I continued to spend hours upon hours together until his home became a sort of safe haven for me. In the final years of high school, I began spending more and more time at Court's house as some issues at my house became greater. Court always said to me, "You can come over anytime you want, man." And he meant it. Anytime, day or night, I was always welcomed. I spent so much time at Court's house, either in his glow-in-the-dark bedroom. And by the way, has anyone, clap if you remember Court's glow-in-the-dark. The coolest bedroom of anyone I've ever met, and to this day. Or if we weren't in Court's glow-in-the-dark bedroom, we were in the basement, where we had established a makeshift clubhouse of sorts. We'd watch the Food Network. Court would decide which cuisine he wanted to perfect next. We'd listen to his extensive CD collection and try to learn all the songs we wanted to play. We learned more and more that we really liked playing music together. Court was the first kid I had ever met who had written his own songs, and they actually sounded like songs. They had witty lyrics, they had riffs that were catchy, and every time he sang, he had a passion in his voice that always came across. Court would never describe himself as a confident person, but if you put him in front of a microphone and asked him to play something, or you just gave him a chance to make you laugh, he would seriously blow you away. And those of us who were fortunate enough to see him perform, whether it was music, comedy, musical comedy, comedy musicals, Court would always undoubtedly leave you without socks on. Court loved performing from an early age, even from the ripe young age of 15 when he attended Lifetime Learning Theater Group. Court's talent, I see some group members in the crowd. Court's talent was apparent, and he starred in a number of productions, both in theater group and in his elementary school. Court always managed to make himself a memorable and standout character in everything he did, even when he wasn't the lead. True to form, Court formed many meaningful lifelong friendships in this group. Some of them are even here today. I heard the claps. You'll get to hear from a couple of them later up on this stage. One of the other wonderful people that Court met in theater group was young Danielle. Danny was undoubtedly drawn to Court's absolute hilarity and wit, and the two became fast friends. Danny and Court remained close friends for years. It wouldn't be until years later that she and Court would see each other as more than friends, fall in love. Having a lifetime of history together can be a beautiful thing in a relationship. Danny and Court had a deep connection and supported each other through so much when each other needed it most. During Court's battle with cancer, I know that Danny was a comforting light for him on his toughest days. We love Danny, we love you. I mentioned earlier that I'm not the friend who has known Court the longest. That honor goes to this lady. Sorry, I keep. No, I was told my beard should touch the mic. Sorry. That honor goes to this young lady standing right next to me, my wife. I told her I wasn't going to say it. Come with me, will you, while I take you on an imaginary time-traveling journey back all the way to the beautiful summer of August 1981 on Nicholson Way in beautiful Johnsview Village. A young Joanna Madeley, Ioma, is on her way home with her beautiful baby girl, Aubrey. Little does she know that only 3 weeks later, her neighbor and close friend, young Martha Jarell, would give birth to a beautiful blonde baby boy, and for some inexplicable reason, name him Courtney Maurice. Okay, maybe that isn't exactly how it went, but I said it was an imaginary time-traveling journey, so suspend your disbelief, please. Together with their other neighbor and friend Jenny, Court and Aubrey could be found on any given day, swinging on the swings behind their row of houses, running through the neighborhood playing whatever imaginary game they had made up that day, or watching the plethora of VHS tapes that they had in their basement. The young trio of friends were inseparable for years. When Aubrey was 13, her family moved out of Johnsview to Woodbridge. Not a world away, but certainly a greater distance than being able to run to the house next door anytime with nary pants on or a jacket or shoes. You were kids. It's okay. Aubrey and Court kept in touch and remained close friends for years. As they got older, they would see each other at family gatherings and sometimes on the weekend when they would get together to chill, as teenagers do. I first met Aubrey, at Court's house, obviously, when I was 19 years old. I would continue to see Aubrey on and off on occasion over the years. Always, if Court invited us both over to chill in his basement, where there may or may not have been some Rev coolers and Mike's Hard Lemonade involved, which was our drinks of choice at the time, and we would watch movies, play guitar, or just wander around the neighborhood under one influence or another, because that was our favorite thing to do together. On July 6th, 2003, Aubrey and I would meet again as guests of Court and the Jarell family at the wedding of Darcy to his young, beautiful, creative, talented, and French wife, Mimi. Court had, of course, offered to perform a choice selection of songs for the newlyweds and had enlisted Matt Ginsberg, Mike Overton, hereafter forever known as Tron, and myself to play with him. By this point, Court had brought us all together. Oh, and I know, that's later. At this point, Court and I had brought us all together to play music, and this was the perfect opportunity to practice. Joining us was Johnsview alumni and drum aficionado himself, Paul Reeves, and we took the opportunity to play. The ceremony was held at the genuinely beautiful Thornhill Village Garden, now officially renamed the Richard Jarell Memorial Garden, and it was a beautiful day for all. I'll always remember that day because it was the time that Aubrey and I saw each other as more than friends for the first time. What followed Mimi and Darcy's wedding was an awkward, drawn-out courtship. See what I did there? Between Aubrey and I. With the solidification of Aubrey and my relationship, the three of us, Court, Aubrey, and I, only grew closer, our lives more intertwined over time. Court was over at our house 5 days of the week, and we were inseparable friends, just as the trio had been as kids. We called ourselves the Triumvirate. I don't even know why, it's just something that Court came up with, and that's what you did. When Court came up with something that was funny, you just said it and remembered it for the rest of your life. It became canon in your friendship. When Aubrey and I moved out on our own, we were 22, and of course, Court was with us at our apartment at least 4 days of the week. When I proposed to Aubrey at a Hawksley Workman concert at the Phoenix in 2005, Court was of course there with us to photo document the event and the subsequent aftermath. She said yes, by the way, spoiler alert. When it came time to our wedding, we didn't think twice about asking Court to be the master of ceremonies. Of course he should be there. He was the one who made it all possible by bringing us together. When Aubrey and I found out that we were going to be parents, it felt so fitting that we also found a lovely little townhouse for rent. Where else but in Johnsview Village? It really did feel like a homecoming of sorts. Here we were, both of us, moving back to the place where Aubrey had been born and where I had grown up so much with Court in the village, to start our own little family. We packed up our modest house that we lived at Finch Station and moved to the suburbs where it all began. Court was a critical part of that big move and those early parenting moments. Actually, I have to take this opportunity to point out, because Court would be really pissed at me if I didn't, that Court helped us move every single time that we moved over the, yeah. And I don't know if we moved more than other people. Court told me maybe 5 times in 15 years, which he told me felt like a lot. So he was there every single time. Living back in Johnsview now with Aubrey felt like old times. Court was back at our house 5 days a week and was an absolutely essential part of that early parenting team. If Aubrey was at home overwhelmed, lonely, or bored, or naming squirrels in the backyard, she would call Court, and Court would come over and keep her company, watch little baby Elle, so maybe Aubrey could use the bathroom or take a shower. But Court was essential and necessary, as he always was. Court was the kind of friend that just seemed to know when you needed him the most, and that's when he would be there for you. Court and I would take Elle for stroller walks all over the neighborhood and sometimes across the street to the early years center. I used to joke that people saw us walking in the community together so much they probably thought we were a same-sex couple. Which isn't too far off because, as many of you can tell or can say in testament, Court and I sometimes argued like an old married couple, right? I really can't overstate the invaluable part of that early parenting team that Court was. Years later, he would even take credit for the fact that our son Miles was born. He would say something like, "You only got to have him because I was babysitting her so you could make him." He wasn't wrong. One thing that must be said about my brother Court is that he had an incredible ability to put people at ease and make you feel comfortable with him. Not to mention, of course, that he was so naturally hilarious all the time you just couldn't want to be around him. Over the years, I came up with a lot of excuses to keep Court around. We weren't just brothers, best friends, classmates, neighbors, and bandmates. We were also once coworkers. Court and I worked together with Jeff Lazarus for 3 years at Sonic Temple, North York finest and last record store. Being together with work at Court never felt like a job, and it kind of was just an excuse to get us to hang out, to be able to hang out and get Jeff to pay for it. Sorry, Jeff.
All good.
At this point, I also have to mention that it always takes an extra step for me to only refer to Court by his first name. You see, most of the time, I'm referring to him by the moniker that he holds as the most important role in my life as uncle to my kids, Elle and Miles. Uncle Court is a staple of conversation, reference, and response in our household. "Hey Mom, how come," insert the type of question that a 13-year-old might ask you over the course of their years. The answer was invariably something like, "Well, when I was 6 years old, Uncle Court and I," or, "Oh, that's the song that Uncle Court was telling you about," or, "No, don't ever do that. One time Uncle Court and I did this by accident, and it was never by accident." After Court finished high school, he went to Seneca College, eventually, where he once again was an invaluable member of the circle of friends that he became a part of. Court had such an amazing way of making you feel connected to him. He knew how to make people feel comfortable. Wherever Court went, he always managed to endear himself within a core group of friends that he would roll with, as he would say. Now that he was back in school, he was back in his creative element, taking his advertising and copywriting classes. Court loved to brainstorm in a room of creative, like-minded people, hashing out ideas. It was one of his favorite things in the world to do, and he was truly brilliant at it. I remember when Court would come over to our place after a day of classes, and he would be so energized and lit up and excited talking about all of the ideas they had generated and the end result. Court taught me one of his favorite philosophies at that time that I've adopted. He would say, "Throw everything out, but throw nothing away." I had to ask him what it meant, and he later explained that it meant not censoring yourself or holding back, and getting out every possible idea that you can, and then reflecting on it later. I told him that that was a really great line, and that he should write a song about it. I don't know if he ever did. Court's talent with creative brainstorming, his naturally hilarious comedic chops, and his innate musical talent reached an apex when he discovered one of his defining loves, Weird Al Yankovic. Hold for deserving applause. Woo! Good job, everyone. Court's love for Weird Al inspired him to write his own parody songs and comedy songs, even as early as high school. Of course, everyone knows that one of Court's defining loves is The Kids in the Hall. Court was always drawn to sketch comedy, again, being in a room of like-minded people, brainstorming and coming up with ideas. The skill that it took to connect with other performers in a group was one of the things that Court learned from an early age he really had the ability to do. He loved to write sketches and emulate his idols, so it was only a matter of time before he joined up with some hilarious friends of his to start his own sketch comedy troupe. Morbio, hold for deserving applause, had many a number of shady characters amongst their ranks over the years, but always Court as a featured player from start to finish. Many of the people in this room got a chance to see Morbio perform in rooms all over the city back in the thriving comedy scene of the early 2000s. The guys in Morbio were hilarious, and somehow together they actually managed to be even greater than the sum of their individual parts. Court's zany and off-the-wall style fit in perfectly with the rest of the guys, and it was always a pleasure to watch them perform. As everyone here, or watching at home, undoubtedly knows, our beloved Court was not only a lover of music and comedy, but also had an equally passionate love of film and film culture. As evidenced by the hundreds of video reviews he publishes to his Court Shake YouTube channel, some of you watching at home right now, Court's thousands of subscribers love to watch him passionately, and occasionally viciously, pick apart his chosen subject matter or offer a hot take or two on the latest Hollywood blockbuster or TIFF underdog. Court always loved movies and movie making. Even from the early days of the internet, Court was able to find and connect with other movie lovers wherever they were. Through the Internet Movie Database, Court discovered message boards of like-minded movie lovers who shared his passion, and where he also connected meaningfully with a community of like-minded individuals to share their collective love. Another thing that Court and I had in common back in those days, that we were both highly influenced by the eclectic tastes of our older brothers. For anyone that knows Court's brother Darcy knows that he is also a highly talented musician, a skilled artisan of many crafts, and also has many talents in the musical arts. I remember the very first time I met Darcy. We were standing outside the cafeteria at Thornley Secondary School, waiting to enter the gym to watch Sway, an occasionally held concert series at the evenings at our school. Many bands were playing that night, but Court's band was one of them, and I went to go support my friend. Darcy was standing in front of me in line as we waited to go in before the show. He seemed as tall as a giant to my high school self and looked like a rock star with his head full of dreads. I remember feeling very intimidated by him as I stood behind him wondering who this mystery man was who was at a high school band performance. After Court's band absolutely killed it, at least that's my memory, right? I remember talking to Court when Darcy came over. Oh my God, what's happening? How does Court know the rock star? Of course, I found out later that Darcy was Court's brother, and it wasn't long before I too admired all of his amazing talents, just as Court did. Darcy is, of course, in his own right, an amazingly talented musician, just as Court was. One time, Darcy was kind enough to ask Court's band, which shall remain nameless, to open for Darcy's band Wash at Lee's Palace. Lee's Palace, right? Playing in that historic room to that empty crowd was one of the finest moments and most exhilarating moments of my life. After getting to know Darcy over the years, I came to learn that he was also blessed with many of the same talents that Court possessed, as well as being a positively fine, upstanding, caring, and all-around lovely human being. There is definitely that commonality amongst the Jarell men, as I would learn over the years. Many of you had the honor of knowing Richard, loving patriarch of the Jarell family. Richard Jarell was a wonderful person. He was a brilliant academic with a strong moral character and an appreciation for the beauty in the world that was inspiring. For those of you that didn't know Richard, allow me to paint for you the most accurate picture possible. Imagine in your mind the most stereotypical professor-type looking person you can in the world. Wise, deep voice, beard, shaggy hair, smoked a pipe, jacket with the patches on it. You know, a professor. Richard was already the most intelligent and interesting person I'd ever met before he even said a word. After I did get to know Richard, I learned that he and Martha shared a love of culture, art, film, and music that spanned the whole globe and every genre that I had never heard of before. Richard and Martha's love for the arts were a roadmap for Court and Darcy, one which they happily followed with their whole hearts. And while we're on the subject of Martha, Martha Jarell is the most warm, kindest person that anyone in this room will ever know. Bar none, no contest, no discussion. She is a saint of a human being with the most positive and beautiful outlook on life I have ever known. She has been helping to take care of me since I was 16 years old. Martha, like her husband, is herself a brilliant and creative person whose love and devotion to her children is apparent to anyone who's ever heard her speak about her boys. Martha's love and caring extends to many of Court's friends, not just myself. Martha was always warm and inviting for the unending group of rapscallions and no-good-nicks that Court would bring home at all hours of the day and night. Always... always kind and considerate. If you can imagine a mother tiptoeing downstairs in her pajamas to sweetly ask a group of drunken 20-somethings in her basement if they could please keep the volume down because it was 4 a.m. on a Wednesday. That was Martha and Richard's devotion to their children, and their belief that their children should be free to learn and express themselves through the means that they deemed valuable. Whether that meant driving Court and his friends to the subway to go downtown to a concert, or driving Court and his friends to the mall so they could go see the latest movie, or driving Court and his friends to a gig with all of our equipment, you get the picture. If Court needed something to happen, Martha and Richard made it a priority. That's what love should look like in a family. That's the Jarell family. As time went on, I tried to spend every minute that I could with Court when he was in and out of the hospital for chemotherapy. He dubbed the paved little area outside his home as Pride Rock, and he'd happily enjoy spending time there watching the world go by. During one of my last visits with him, I had the idea of reading him a draft I'd started to write of this very eulogy. Knowing his sense of humor, I knew he would get a real kick out of hearing it and giving me some pointers and hearing what I would say. I wanted to get his comedic tips so that I could really kill this moment. In the end, I abandoned that idea, chickening out at the last minute, instead choosing to spend a few more minutes with him, talking about God knows what, whatever nonsense we were talking about, just to hear his voice and ignoring the impending loss that we would soon face once he could battle no more. As always, I was just happy to be around him. Court Jarell was the thread that weaved us all together. He was the missing piece that we didn't know we needed around us until we found him, and it just fit. Court had a way of making a circle of friends feel complete, enriched, somehow more cohesive than it was without his presence. In closing, I would just like to share this firm belief. Court Jarell will live on forever as long as we continue to collectively quote, reference, celebrate his music, his creative genius. Listening to his music, his stories, his videos, and his recorded performances, they are a gift to us all from him. Now please everyone, go get some food and get up and stretch. I've talked enough, so thank you very much.
Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Matt Ginsberg, and I'm very sad I'm not there in Toronto to celebrate Court's life today with all of you. I'm here on a trail outside of my new home city of Seattle, a place I probably wouldn't be living if it weren't for Court. I first met Court in Mr. Stone's grade 9 drama program, and I pretty much instantly knew this was a kid I wanted to be friends with. I mean, here was a 14-year-old who wasn't just kind and clever and funny, but also had this deep-seated set of interests and passions that he couldn't wait to share with the world. I got to know him in classes, in the after-school drama program, and weekends at Dark Zone Laser Quest, and we talked for hours like teenagers do. He exposed me to the cultural touchstones that still anchor my taste to this day. You like rock, he would ask? Well, you've got to listen to this album by Soundgarden, or this song by the Smashing Pumpkins, and wait, what do you mean you haven't heard of Pearl Jam? Do you like movies, he'd ask? Well, you gotta check out The Usual Suspects and The Lost Boys, and hey, when's the last time you saw the original Batman, because it holds up. And when he talked about these interests, he injected an infectious enthusiasm that was truly irresistible. You weren't just getting a recommendation to watch Batman, but a sense of the unbridled joy of a movie theater audience rising up in a collective cheer as the Batmobile made its big screen entrance for the first time. And as fiercely as he'd defend his own taste, he loved to listen and learn from others. He couldn't wait to get a recommendation of someone else's niche interest or a fresh perspective on a shared favorite. He gravitated towards those with insight, with humor, with glee, and he enriched his own experiences by sharing them with those around him. Court brought a sense of ritual to everything he did, setting the stage and sequencing things just so to maximize enjoyment. We rejoiced in setting up the perfect Wonderland day, straight to Thunder Run as the park opened, over to the backseat of Vortex, pick up a beverage for the line at Skyrider, and then make sure you're back at Thrillburger by lunch. When we decided to write a 2-act play together, our all-night writing process took on the same sense of ritual. Over to his place in the evening, then to Thornhill Square for groceries, cook up a full meal, smoke a bowl, then set the beanbag chair and the desk and the computer just so. And only then we would unleash our creative genius on a play about a Weetabix-sponsored tourist lunar colony entitled This is the Moon, right? But it wasn't just our sense of ritual that slowed down the writing process. No, we debate alternatives every line of dialogue. We'd add irreverent stage directions to amuse ourselves, and we'd occasionally need to get up and take a 3-hour midnight walk around the neighborhood just to decide which was a funnier name for an astronaut, Kit or Kim. Court showed me that we could have as much fun in the ephemera of the writing process as the writing itself. We took the time to do celebrity casting for the movie version of our play and design an original motion picture soundtrack filled with moon pun theme songs. We weren't the most dedicated students, and by the time we were wrapping up high school, we had to go back for one last credit, a victory lap semester at Richmond Hill Community Adult Learning Center. In the months that followed, I was pretty directionless. I didn't know what to do next in my life, and there was Court, supporting, as always, in the way that only he could, by sharing his passions and getting me as excited about the future as he was. In this time, it was cooking. We'd watch Food Network into the wee hours and talk about what we had seen and what we wanted to try to cook and eat. Before long, I was so hooked that I enrolled in a 2-year culinary program at George Brown and went on to my first career path as a cook. But that was just Court, a friend equally through thick and thin. He'd ask questions, but never judge your decisions. He'd joke, but never tease. He showed us how to build friendships that were honest and vulnerable, and how to bring empathy and love and goodness to those around you. When Court traveled, he brought that same sense of enthusiasm back about the things he had seen. He treasured his memories in Korea and China, but perhaps the trip that left the biggest impression, at least in my ear, was the time he visited Seattle with his dad. Well, while his dad went to a conference during the day, Court bounced around the city, soaking in the vibe, and years later he would effuse about this magical place filled with beautiful wilderness and cheap and convenient transit and a vibe that you just had to experience for yourself. That romantic tale stuck with me for decades, until just a few years ago when I visited Seattle for myself. And there I was, seeing the city through Court's eyes, his infectious enthusiasm, even years removed, washing over me as it always had. I fell in love with Seattle, and just a couple years ago decided to make it my home as well. There's no other person who's had as deep an impact on me as Court has. From my interests and passions, to my home, to my sense of what it means to be a true friend. Court gave my life a rich meaning, even when we were apart. Until my dying days, I will miss Court, I will feel his absence, and I will be sad he's not there, but his impact on me will never end. I love you, Court.
Hey everybody, my name's Josh. Hi, how's it going? I'm going to ask Darcy to come up in just a second. Oh, he's already there. Those Jarells, they sneak up on you. Cord and I have known each other since we were 4 years old, and we've been weaving in and out of each other's lives ever since. We met when our parents took us to dance lessons, and little 4-year-olds dancing, shaking. And I remember him vaguely even then, even at 4, but every time our paths have crossed and braided in our lives, it's always been in a creative way. We went to public school together where we did the HMS Pinafore. Dead-Eye Dead. Yeah, it was, when the Simpsons episode came out with the Pinafore, that was a big deal for both of us. And then, we went to a Lifetime Learning Theater camp together and did plays. One time, we were doing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I was Charlie and he was Grandpa Joe, and he was supposed to give me a ticket. This is during the performance. I'm like, Grandpa Joe, do you have the ticket? And he's just like, no. I'm like, well, I must have it somewhere. And he's just like watching me dead-eyed, sweat in front of friends and family. Good fucking guy. Later on, we did comedy together. He had a sketch group called Morbio, and I remember coming out to see it, and I was just like, well, if he can do that, I can do that. And I called my friends together, and we started a sketch group. And our sketch groups were like sibling sketch groups. We went to Montreal together. We did Brunswick House. We were always in and out of each other's lives. But the thing that really I love about Cord, and the memory I think about the most, is in 2002, I was working as a drama director at an overnight camp, Northland in Haliburton, and my job was to come up with a play to have the kids do each summer. And I remember Cord being like, "You're not going to do something terrible like Grease, are you?" I'm like, no, I got something way better than that. But can you help me write it? And of course, a big theme of the night is that he would open himself up and open up his creativity. And I have zero musical talent, but we wrote The Hobbit, the musical, together. And still to this day, people that were in it, the kids were just like, yeah, that was amazing and so very weird. Those nights are some of my most treasured creative memories, is going over Martha to your house to the basement, starting early at 2 a.m. drinking bottles upon bottles of wine and cigarettes and weed and writing together and just writing. And what happens when you write together so much is that your voices weave together. And even today, even though we haven't written stuff together in years, he's in my fingers when I write. And I'll be writing, and a joke will come out, and it's from Cord, from inside me, and I'll just like, that's Cord. Thank you for this insane joke. And for the rest of my life, he's in my heart and he's in my memories, but he is also in my fingers as I write, and he helps me all the time, still to this day. So I'd like to sing a song from The Hobbit, the musical. I picked this song, if you guys know The Hobbit, the dwarves come and invade Bilbo's house, and then they sing him a song of thank you. And this is just, I think I picked a really somber, sweet song. What? Okay, fine, it's called Dozin Was Killed by a Bear. What?
Is the guitar on?
To thank you for your food and home, our most gracious host. We shall tidy up for you, but first we'll make a toast. We'll tell you a story sad and true, about our cousin Dozin and how his life went down the loo. He was walking through the woods one night, he came across a bear. He got so scared he dropped his axe, and then he lost his hair. I love you, Court. You're still in my heart, my fingers, and my brain.
So, Court got 100% of the public speaking genes. I got nothing. But I just want to thank you all for being here on this very strange day. It's really nice. I especially want to thank Ben and Aubrey and Michelle, who've done a ridiculous amount of work over the past few weeks to put this together. It's just amazing. Thank you guys. I wouldn't have known where to begin, but anyway, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay, good. Why? Shit! You know what I mean? Shit. As if the world needed less light. It needed less laughter. Less random beatboxing. Court, he loved his random beatboxing. I'm Ken. I met Courtney Maurice back in the sweaty summer of 2003. I was a young, faux-hawked man trying to make it in the acting world, and I failed miserably at getting a job at a restaurant. So, like other would-be actors would. But I had successfully applied to a small movie theater called Rainbow Cinemas that had yet to open. I showed up that first day, and I was immediately sent up to this hidden, junky area just under the roof of this dump of a place. I was directed down this long, slanted hallway where at the very end was this huge pile of old theater seats that had been left for some asshole, or some assholes, to repurpose at some point in the future. So as you can surmise, I was that one asshole, and as I arrived at the pile, I met the other asshole, who was already hard at work. This young buck with the kind eyes would quickly grow to be one of my dearest friends over the next 19 years. Hey, Court, he said as we shook hands. We were left on our own that afternoon to move a ton of heavy chairs from the one end of the hallway to the other. Now, noticing a big empty bin on wheels, Court suggested we just chuck a bunch of chairs in it and just push it down the hallway like a couple little coal miners. So this worked really well for a while, until Court, he grew bored, and he suggested that it might be fun if one of us hopped in. And the other one pushed. So I thought, that's a great idea. So, being fast friends, I quickly agreed to it, and we risked our lives that way for a while. But then, Court threw out the idea that both of us should ride it at the same time. So Court hopped in, I pushed and said, push, push, and I started pushing. I hopped in. We rode down, and I can still remember Court's tackle, but we hadn't figured out how to stop. So the Court said, bang! We went into the wall, fell down. Thankfully, we didn't break any of the chairs, and we didn't hurt ourselves. But that was the first of many belly laughs that we'd have over the next 2 decades together. The owner, Tom, actually happened to see us moving just the bin at this point. And rather than congratulating Court on his ingenious idea, he simply told us that he thought the idea was poopy. He turned on his heel and left. Now, I bring this up because 19 years have passed, and I can still clearly see the look of disgust and bafflement and amusement on Court's face. We would adopt the word poopy as our own, and we would use it to describe many things that we found distasteful or we didn't like over the years. I think it's absolute poopy that Court is not with us today. Our friendship quickly grew out of the theater and expanded across the street into a pub called the Jersey Giant. We'd spend all of our money we earned there drinking a shot, then a beer, a shot, then a beer. Court taught me, I didn't even know you could do that. Some post-work evenings, to save money but still hang out and continue to behave like degenerates, we'd sit next to a dumpster in an alley behind the theater, drinking wine from these movie theater cups, until the local heavily tanned security guard, whom Court dubbed Creepy Tan, shooed us away. Now, Creepy Tan was the first of many individuals Court and I would just treat like balls and just bounce off one another, kind of enjoying the stoking of the creative fire of the other. These characters would develop rich, weird backstories, and it provided us just with endless amusement. And we from them would grow sayings and just words that we would repeat constantly as vernacular to each other. Actually, I mentioned to Martha the other week that I was washing the dishes, and I still find myself, I say these words, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, that's something I did with Court. And whenever I say them, Court is literally right next to me. So a couple of them are, go ahead. Ooh, Court has an ill tongue. And you know, love is just it's just all around. So I say any of those, right away, he's here. So girlfriends used to get angry with me because I couldn't stand talking to them on the phone for like 5 minutes. But with Court, I would happily talk for hours. My now wife was convinced that Court and I were up to no good because she refused to believe that two young men would just aimlessly walk around the city just talking about life for hours. But that's what we did. That's all we did. And as Court always said, it's our thing. We did our thing in Toronto, and we did it in Chicago, and we did it in South Korea, we did it in China, and we did it in Japan. I loved our walks with Court because I never had to wear a mask. So I could be the loner. I could be the anxious, nerdy guy who hated the ideas of clubs and busy bars, but Court was just content to just walk and talk. And yeah, we would drink a bit, you know, whiskey and wine, and just keep going. We talked about our fears, our frustrations, embarrassments, humiliations, our worries, our hopes, our successes, our dreams, and we were there for each other when times got tough. After I returned from Korea, I brought back a wife. Court actually met her in Korea when he came to visit me. So I started seeing Court less and less. And after I had a baby, you can't tell. And after I moved to East Hamilton, our long walks grew into just long phone calls, and those long phone calls eventually became more just texting. And I wish I had spent more time with him. You know, I wish I had taken more pictures of him. As Dr. Zeus said, sometimes you'll never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Some of my fondest memories. One time I had an intense battle with Court using brooms in an empty theater during a screening of Passion of the Christ. One time we ate at an Indian buffet for 7 hours. One time at Martha's house, Court and I were in the basement overnight, and Court, in this slow motion zombie state, tried to attack me with a fork, after I woke him up when he'd fallen asleep with a plate of spaghetti on his chest. I'm gonna miss his random and always very public breakouts into either beatboxing, air drumming while singing Pearl Jam, air guitar while singing Pearl Jam, this Jack Black dance from School of Rock he always used to bust into at like a traffic light, and his constant, very accurate impression of Heath Ledger's Joker, which he just pulled all the time. I'm gonna miss his delight over my sheer delight when I found out years after knowing him that his middle name was Maurice. From that point, I stopped calling him Court. I was always just like, "Hey, Maurice!" He found it unamusing very fast. I'm gonna miss that laugh of his that would, when he was highly amused, would go into a cackle. I'm gonna miss his shake to greet and his hug to leave. I'm gonna miss the way he would describe a movie to me, often in its entirety, and it would be done so well I just didn't bother seeing the movie after. And it's what I actually loved about his Court Shake channel. It was just one of the ways that he channeled that immense talent of his into something. And the last was the time we were in China, and he and I haggled pathetically for 20 minutes for this cheap piece of shit watch that Court paid for. He paid $40 for it when he should have only paid less than $1. And literally, he started winding it, and seconds later it broke. And he was like, I was like, I told you. So he went back and he got another one. Same price. And then an hour later, he accidentally bought a female kimono. To never let him forget. When Court told me he was coming to visit me when I was living in South Korea, I was beyond pumped. And I can still feel the joy that I felt when I saw him walk through the airport after a 14-hour flight. We spoke about this trip when we hung out often over the years, and it never failed to bring us both right back there. So the following is a little slideshow from that trip. The song that you'll hear is from the now defunct musical Lord of the Rings, which Court and I saw 5 times, and each time it was about 4 hours long. I got us free tickets though, so you know we were only out of time. And there's a song in it that's sung by Frodo and Sam that we both just loved. And I don't recall how it started. We started doing this, but every time we drank together, we got drunk. We started singing it like two old drunks who forgot they're in public. And one time, very late at night, my wife called me, and she was like, "Where are you?" I told her I was in the park outside our condo, and I would be in a second. Well, I guess I forgot to go in because she came looking for me, but because it was in a park and it was snowing and it was dark, she couldn't find me. She later told me that she could hear drunken voices singing off in the distance, and she just followed the voices. So she found us on a bench, arms thrown around each other, happily singing this song and trying to harmonize. And it will always remain a very happy, albeit blurry memory with someone I loved and will miss very much. Circles in the back who can't read it.
Story of heroes of the Shire, muddling through, brave and true, stubborn as bindweed and tough as old briar, never too showy or grand. Year after year they persevere, now and for always. Harfoot supplanted, store for good ground, bred to endure, slow but true. Allied blood in your veins makes you proud, sturdy and steady they stand, true to their aim to stay the same, now and for always. Sit by the firelight's glow, tell us an old tale we know, tell of adventures strange and rare, never to change, ever to share. Stories we tell will cast their spell, now and for always. Sing me a story of Frodo in the ring, fearless and bold, tired and cold, a sword at his side, an elf blade called Sting, crossing a miserable land. Wouldn't retreat, just followed his feet, now and for always. Sit by the firelight's glow, tell us an old tale we know, tell of adventures strange and rare, never to change, ever to share. Stories we tell will cast their spell, now and for always. Bravest of them all, comrade and guide, at my side, stout-hearted Sam, who wouldn't let me fall, holding my life in his hand. True to the end, no finer friend, now and for always. Sit by the firelight's glow, tell us an old tale we know, tell of adventures strange and rare, never to change, ever to share. Stories we tell will cast their spell, now and for always.
Hey everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Nimi. And, thank you. So I've known Court for most of my life. Not as long as many of you have, but for me, he was my oldest and my dearest friend. And if there's one thing I learned about Court over the years, is that no one had a better timed Simpsons quote for like literally every single occasion you can imagine. So, like, he caught the last bus going home. Everything's coming up Millhouse. When I bought new sunglasses, they goggles, they do nothing. When anyone got elected for literally anything, well, don't blame me, I voted for Kodos. Or sometimes he changed that one up with, I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords. Court's wit was boundless, and the more I look back on our friendship, the more I realize that how much his humor informed my humor. I mean, yeah, we love the same things, Kids in the Hall, The Simpsons, it just goes on forever. But the way he spun things, that's what I laugh about again and again and again. It's his humor that I end up emulating. Like, for instance, the way he would always like change names in a really strange way. You didn't quite get where it came from, but you kind of started using it. Like Vince Gilligan, the guy who did Breaking Bad, for now and forever, he will be Vincenzo McGillicuddy. And I don't know where it came from. I can't explain it, and I can't use it with anyone else because no one outside of this room would have any idea what I'm talking about. But for me, that's who he is now. Another one was the famous director Darren Aronofsky. Nope, he's Darren Aron, and that's just who he is. And there was one more that he gifted me. It was the last time I saw him. We were sitting at a movie at TIFF, a Darren Aron movie actually, and there was this guy a few seats away, and Court swore he recognized him. And I'm pretty good with faces, and I had never seen this guy, but Court said he knew him from like some movie or some TV show, something. And all he really remembered was that the guy was like, played a twink in some movie, and that he was Latino. So of course, Court instantly named him Latwinko, which is a perfect name. And the craziest thing is, like 2 days after that, Court texted me saying, "Oh my God, I saw this movie and Latwinko was in it." He was right. He actually did recognize the guy. And when I watched that movie, I was like, "Oh my God, that's Latwinko." So it was just like the gift that kept giving. I look back fondly at these moments because it's the sort of thing that made our friendship special. I mean, yes, there were the big life-changing moments, and when those occurred, we were there for each other. But when I think of Court, what I think of are the little things, you know, the stuff between the stuff. That's what stays with me. Like how we would analyze Batman for hours over beer, over wine, just talking about Batman. Or the excitement that we'd share over some like new trailer, some movie, some video game. Or the way that I knew that no matter how many years would pass, we could just like slip back into our old banter in a minute. And just like that, we're dumb teenagers again. And I mean, we're not getting stoned in a park or jamming in his basement, but it's exactly the same. Our dynamic never changed. Court's my best friend, and there will never be someone else in my life like him. And it's impossible to understand that he won't be here anymore to shoot the shit or talk about movies or meet my kid. But I know he wouldn't want me to wallow in grief. He'd want me to process it, to cope with it, and when I'm ready, make a very inappropriate joke about it. And I don't want to say goodbye. But if I keep these memories alive, maybe it's enough to just say, "Later, man." Will I be strong enough for that? Maybe I will, Millhouse. Maybe I will. I love you, Court.
So there's one more thing that some of us wanted to do. We wanted to perform a couple of Court's favorite songs for you all. So if I could get the band up here. We'd like to do 2 songs. The first is a lovely song that Court performed with his brother Darcy and Mimi previously, and the last song is a song by an artist called Hawksley Workman, who's very dear to Court and a number of us, and we want to perform that song. It was also one of Court's favorites. So just one second.
I can't see anybody, but hi. Yeah. Hi. I have no idea what I'm saying hello to, but I have a little bit of a cold, so I have no idea if I'll be able to control my voice. So, and I know this song inside out, but under the circumstances, I am thinking that I'm probably gonna start singing, and I might sing in French, so just in case. be, what should I say, warned. But hey, if you feel like it, please feel free to sing along. That would help me a lot, actually. So maybe you should start the song, no? No? Get a few people on stage.
Two jumps in a week, I bet you think that's pretty clever, don't you, boy? Flying on your motorcycle, watching all the ground beneath you drop. You kill yourself for recognition, kill yourself to never ever stop. You broke another mirror, you're turning into something you are not. Don't leave me high, don't leave me dry, don't leave me high, don't leave me dry. Nobody's singing, eh? Leaving me all alone, all dried up. Wow. Drying up in conversation, you will be the one who cannot talk. All your insights fall to pieces, you still wishing you could still be making love. But they're the ones who hate you when you think you've got the world all sussed up. They're the ones who spit at you, you'll be the one screaming out. Don't leave me out, don't leave me dry, don't leave me out, don't leave me dry. Oh, it's the best thing that you've ever had, the best thing that you've ever had. It's the best thing that you've ever had, the best thing you've had is gone away. Don't leave me out, don't leave me dry, don't leave me out, don't leave me dry.
This is the last song we'd like to do for you all. It's Hawksley Workman. The song is called Autumn's Here.
I'm Michelle. And some of you may know me, some of you may not.
Michelle Tanny joining us on the keys, everyone.
I'm very nervous. I don't know how this is going to go, but I know that if I screw up, Court would be laughing at me, and I will take solace in that, I guess, right? And I'm sorry if my daughter suddenly runs on stage. She's following me around, so it might happen. It might happen. Just let it happen, right? Okay. You guys ready? You can tell my keyboard is not on. Yeah.
You got it.
You can tell I'm a professional. All right. You can tell by the wind, by fresh cut wood, all stacked to dry, that autumn's here. It makes you sad about the crummy summer we had, with pine trees creaking, the ravens screeching, just like the story my grandma tells about when a bird gets your window and someone you know is about to die. That autumn's here, autumn's here. It's okay if you want to cry, 'cause autumn's here, autumn's here, autumn's here. So find a sweater and you'll be better until the kindling is tinder dry. We can be quiet as we walk down to see the graveyard where they are now. I wonder how they brought their piano to Holding Hill from favorite Oxley song, so that's why.
And I wanna say thank you for listening to this album. I'm sure the other guys would thank you too, but they're not here. I'm by myself in the living room, just thinking about all you people out there listening to my songs. And how that's wrong, so very wrong with my obsession. What was the point of the secret track? You might say, every good album needs a secret track. Oh dear.
This concludes the formal portion of the event. We can take a minute. Folks can grab something to eat. Please mingle and chat with one another. The instruments are remaining on stage and remaining plugged in. And anyone who would like to come up and say a word or two or play something for Court, something that reminds you of Court, everyone is welcome to do so. Court's favorite thing in the world was being in a room with creative folks. The sweatier the better, the more packed in the better, and just singing and playing guitar. That's what he loved best. So that's what we're going to do now. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And please chat with one another, share memories. I look forward to chatting with everyone. Love you all. Noah?
Hey. How are you? I'm okay under the circumstances. How about yourself? Oh, that's good. Thank you. I don't know. I was just doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't done it like this
I was able to watch it after I went back to the stage.
Oh god, that was the dumbest thing because I did this test footage and then I used the same file name that I shouldn't have, and then like people assumed it was the video. So then I had to like scramble and like delete it from the channel for people to long day. Anyway, so.
Oh well, it worked out. Well, we gotta get together soon.
Yeah. What did you do?
Oh well, we had like a disaster on the trip to Arizona. Our friends were just, they were sick the whole time, they didn't want to do us. Everything they said that we could do, they changed their mind at the last minute. We ended up having to get our own Airbnb, we had to rent a car the day we needed to pick up the car, like, it cost us twice the amount that we spent, like, we spent so much fucking money. And at the end of it all, they stopped talking to us. I don't know, they were just all like, oh, we're tripping. You guys weren't honest with us. I don't even know what the fuck
Not a good way to spend your time and money on.
Oh God, no.
Vegas trip today?
No, because your round trip costs so much money.
I know. Next year, like now that like my honestly, like my mental health has gotten like so much better because yeah, you're not wrong. We were one of May. I kind of went to the university to kick my ass.
Yeah.